Hi guys, Billy back, and this is not the Mezco Spec Ops Punisher. Okay, quickly looking at this box. This came from China and it was wrapped in bubble wrap and it had a little plastic bag over it. So I am surprised that it's remained reasonably intact. It's not amazing, but it has remained a sturdy-ish box, which is normally not the case with these very special, I think, artistic interpretations of the Mezco figures. But they've put 112 Collective post-play display. They've obviously avoided the Mezco logo. They've also got the Punisher skull there, the Punisher, and the Marvel logo, which is a bit cheeky, I think. But then we come around, we can see Punisher on the side, and obviously this is clearly an exact replica, almost exact replica of the original box. And you can see the Punisher, you can see there's all creasing and bending there, but I'm lucky it actually arrived without any real damage to it whatsoever. Let's see what it's got on the bottom. Oh crap, it's got the Mezco logo, you naughty people. Anyway, yeah, so I think they're trying to advertise this as Mezco, and they really shouldn't. Normally they do Miziki toys and they call it all different names, or they swap the letters around so it's not confused for a Mezco. But in all honesty, they've absolutely just gone ahead and ripped this completely off, I think. Oh, that's cheeky. Anyway, let's open it up and have a look inside. Man, looking at these accessories, this thing is almost worth it for the price for these accessories alone. It's mad. Honestly, you get so many guns, so many little bits. Go have a quick look and you can actually see that we get this rocket launcher. This is from the original as well, and they've actually dry brushed and weathered it. It's not as dry brushed and weathered as much as the original version. You can see that it's not as heavily weathered around the edges here, and it's slightly too heavy weathered down here. But that's a very nice looking rocket launcher. It's exactly the same as the original. Yeah, got no complaints with that. Then we come across, we can see the Gatling gun. And this Gatling gun is very nice. Again, same similar style to the rocket launcher. It has a matte black finish with some gunmetal dry brushing through it. Very nice. The only problem and only difference from the original is that the handle is matte black as well, whereas it was gloss on the original version. But that looks good. And then it comes with this gun belt. We can see that the gun belt does actually work pretty nicely. They've put the gold trim inside. They didn't have to do that, to be fair, but they actually have. And then you come along and you can see that it can fit inside here. Where's it going to go? It can go in, slots in there like that, and comes down and comes around, or you can flip it around and do it that way. But then you've got this curling upwards, so I don't know how that's going to work. And then we get the machine gun, and this looks pretty much the same as well. It's even got the notches and scratches on the side like the original. This bit moves forward and back, the clip comes out, and this is when you can tell the detail and quality is not as good as the original, in that there's sloppy paintwork on the top. But you also get an extra clip there. Again, same crappy paintwork up the top, but nice little bit of dry brushing. Up next we get the handgun, and the handgun, I think this is the same as the original, except for I can't seem to be able to pull the clip out. And the only reason for that is either they stuck this in before it was dry and the paint's dried in there and it's very hard to get out, or it's just one big large lump of plastic. I don't know, I can't tell. I've tried really hard to get this clip out. It will not come out, which is surprising. I don't know why. You know, if you get one of these, maybe yours will be a lot easier to take out, but mine isn't. But they also give you an extra clip here, which is utterly pointless if you can't even take the original one out. But it looks good anyway. And then you get this SMG with a sort of silencer on the end. You can see that looks pretty cool. Exactly the same as the original. And the cartridge does come out, or the magazine. And I think the paintwork on this is a little better than the others, but still not as great as the original. And you get 3 gun effects, very much like the original, except for these have a slightly darker wash inside them, which makes them look a little dirtier. And the original comes out all the way here, and it starts to get more translucent the closer you get to the bullet. But that doesn't happen here. It's literally yellow all the way through, and then the silver bit at the end is just stuck in there. And again, the silver bits, the bullets shall we say, and not as finely painted. And the same here. Yellow all the way through, doesn't thin and get translucent near the end like the original. The bullets is much larger than on the original because they've just probably painted where the clear translucent plastic should be, and that's it. And you get 2 of these. You also get the duffel bag to put all these weapons in. Gun belt can go inside while he's holding the Gatling gun and firing from it. Material feels quite good. It's a little thin. You can see through it down there, can't you? Not sure if that was like the original, but it is very thin. It's even got a Velcro strap here, so we can put that on. You can seal this up, and the Velcro sticks really nicely. I quite like this. I think that's quite cool. It also comes with lots of grenades. Again, not as finely painted as the original, but still, they do the job. And they obviously go inside this gun here. If you slide this forward, put this in there like that, you can slide it along. Stays in there. Bit more detail than I thought. He comes with 4 grenades. Again, very much like the original. These aren't so badly painted as I've seen previous iterations come out with. Looks okay. Bit sloppy around the ring there, but not too bad. Pass them off no problem. It's always good to have loads of accessories because you can use them with other figures as well. And then he comes with this knife. And it is very similar to the original. Even has the hole there. It's a little bit smaller here than it is on the original. And there's no painting or any sort of dry brushing along here. Not sure if that was the way on the original, but there you go. And then you've got the silver edge of the knife here, which is a lot thicker than it was on the non-KO version. Head sculpts wise, he comes with 2 unmasked head sculpts, and this is the first one and this is the second one, and I'll be honest with you, they're not very good. They look very much like the Sideshow Punisher, where he's got a massive over orangey face and the paintwork is a little bit sloppy. I mean, it's not the worst head sculpts, but I do think that they effed up a little bit on the paint application. And again, you've got the glossiness in the hair, which isn't as much on the original. I mean, just for comparison, let's pull in the original head sculpt for this one. This is the original Mezco version, and you can see that's miles better, isn't it? Look at that. Even the scars are nicely finely detailed. The eyes are straight. They're not sloppily painted. Nice and subtle. The 5 o'clock shadow is better. The skin tone is better. And the hair is less glossy. And the details in the ear are far deeper. So yeah, these aren't great. But the reason you would probably get this anyway is not for those head sculpts. They would be for the one that I've put on him already, which is the Spec Ops masked head sculpt. And I really like that. So we're going to have a look at that in a minute. But one final thing is you get the Mezco stand, as per usual. You get this arm. Still quite stiff joints, not as stiff as the original versions are, but still quite good. But then you can see this is a giveaway as to a KO, is these air bubbles just inside the stem here. They give it away pretty easily that these are a KO version, but it works pretty good. This arm grip is quite firm. And then you get the stand, and the stand is just the Mezco logo, but unfortunately it's not as glossy. It's a bit scratched up already. This bit here is a bit transparent. You can see the black underneath it a little bit. And it doesn't come with a foot peg. It only comes with the arm, which is a shame. But I'm not a big fan of those stands anyway, so I'm not too bothered. Okay, let's have a quick look at the figure then. And here he is, straight out of the packaging. What I've done is I have put the masked head sculpt on, and I've swapped a couple of hands around just because he had fisted hands to begin with, and I can maybe get him into a couple of poses. And obviously you can see there are a few slight differences, maybe not from this far away, but there are definitely a few variations to the original, and I'm going to point them out in a second. But let's just come in and have a look at that head sculpt. And you can see what they've done here is they've done a really nice sort of bright white paint job all the way over the front here, slightly faded to the back. It's not as solid as the original. It's a little bit more faded and a bit thinner, but not too bad. As we can see, it's still got all the sculpting in there. It's a little bit shallow, but not as much as I would expect. And as we come around, we can see all the straps in the back, and the buckles have all been painted, which I'm really surprised by, to be honest. All the buckles have been painted very nicely. Now this top half part is where it becomes a bit tricky, because I think the detail up the top here, there was some sort of fabric or sort of rough pattern there, and it looks a lot more prominent in the original, but it's still there. You can still see it. but it did lose some of the detail there. If we come around the back, we can still see lots of scratches and detail, and it works really well. And I'll try and show, there is some yellowing just around the mask here, just near the tip of the nose and things like that. And the colour of the eyes, they actually painted the eyes really well here. I'm really impressed. They actually didn't do too bad a job on them eyes. The skin texture is still a little bit dark, but it's not too big a deal, because when you're standing in from a reasonable distance away like this, it still works. Okay, if we move down to the neck, you can see that the neck is not as shiny as the original KOs that came out. They've actually gone and dulled down that neck shine a little bit, because it was just pure plastic before. It doesn't seem as bright and shiny as it used to. So they've done something there. And then we come down, we can see the suit. And the details in the suit are actually really nice. I still think it's lost some of the actual details, like in the fabric here. I believe there was some slightly more textured areas in the arms, but they've still got all the panels here. The shoulder pads, again, these aren't as prominent. The original actually had almost like a 3D layer to them, and they actually looked almost like shoulder pads, whereas here they were a bit flatter. We can see the strap around here going to the back. He's got some nice paneling, but that stitching is rough. And then we come down, and the most important part is the skull. And as we can see from the skull, what they've decided to do was, in the original it was all white and there was a lot of texture on it. It was sort of a rough texture, but they didn't really have the luxury here because it was a cheaper printing process from the looks of it. So what they decided to do was try and replicate the rough colour by bringing it in and sort of just making some sort of, I don't know, beige spotted areas just the way around the outside, make it look dirty and make it look rough. And from the here, it just looks like a really cool rough skull. But it's, again, I think what they did was they thought about it quite a lot, and they tried to replicate it, but they didn't really have to. They could have just had a solid white skull there. I don't think anyone would have complained. So I'm not entirely sure why they did that. Maybe it's just a really crap printing process. Or maybe these were originally designed by Mezco for the Spec Ops, and then at some point they've changed the printing process or changed the design, and then they had a hell of a load of these suits left over. So the factory decided to put them all on bodies and send them out there. But either way, I quite like it. It does feel like they've put some thought into it. And then we come down, we can see the belt. Big white belt. And what I am quite impressed by is the fact that they have not really gone overboard with the silver paint on the buckles or the buttons. What they've managed to do is actually stay within the lines and give these buttons quite a nice detailed paint job, but it's not as sloppy, it's quite clean. And then as you can see, they've added some yellow in dry brush to the pouches to make them look a bit more weathered. And then we've got the knife at the back here, and that can pop in, but it doesn't stay, it's too small. It just pops out again. So unlike the Mezco, where you can bring this down, push it down and it will stay, I don't think this one will. But I'm actually really impressed. That's the best paint job on a KO Mezco I've seen so far anyway. And of course he's got the white gloves and the hands. And one of the problems you've got with these white gloves is that they've got a flesh coloured wrist peg there, which separates them a little bit too much, because obviously they should be white so that the whole thing looks clean and connected, but they don't. So it breaks up the glove from the top and the bottom half. What do you expect? It's a KO. Coming down into the legs, you can see all the straps. The stitching is quite thick, so it puffs out the leg a little bit here, which is a shame. You can see there's lots of detail in there. Knee pads, the straps run around the back, and then we come down and we can see the boots. And the usual semi-sloppy paint job is in there. You can see all the buckles there, but the silver doesn't sit on them perfectly like it should, which is a bit of a shame. But again, they've weathered the tips of the boots here. Some yellowing on there and some lovely little bits of detail. Yeah, it's not too bad a job, if I'm honest. Okay, I've put him on the stand and I'm using an official foot peg because it obviously doesn't come with a foot peg on this stand. And I've got him sort of posed with the Gatling gun. And I have to say, I'm really impressed with everything it comes with, but he's not as easy to pose as you'd think with like a normal Mezco. He's a bit fiddly. There's some little bits like the hand here doesn't actually fit with this gun. They don't actually give you a slightly gripping hand. They give you 3 trigger finger hands, which is 2 left and 1 right. And it's fascinating why they did that, because there's no gripping. Then he comes with an action aggressive hand. Then he comes with 2 fists. He comes with a slightly relaxed left hand. And then he comes with the karate chop hand. But no actual hands that can naturally just grip that top bar on this Gatling gun, which is a massive shame. But as you can see, I've managed to put it in, trail it into the bag. All the guns, most of them anyway, are in this bag, and it does look a little big. I'm not entirely sure if it's meant to be that big, and it doesn't look like it's super comfortable on there. But it kind of works anyway, and as you can see, it looks pretty action-packed, doesn't it? I quite like it anyway, and I really like that masked head sculpt. But it's pretty much the head sculpt you want to go with this guy, because the other two are really bad. The sculpt's not bad, it's just the paint application is awful. Always go with the official if you can, obviously. But you know what? This will fill a gap. It looks pretty good, and it will actually stand in your collection pretty well. And I quite like it. I think it works really well. It is a shame that they had to cut some corners, but I understand why. And if you can go for the original, always go for the original. But you know, Mezco have sold out now. There's none available. It's all on the secondary market, and that's the only place you're going to get them. But one of the main problems I have with this Gatling gun, other than the fact that it doesn't really fit the hand very well, is also these gun effects. Excuse me. These gun effects here do not fit into the end. This port here is just a little bit too big. You can really push it in if you want, but I guarantee you it's going to snap off, and then you've lost this gun effect. So I wouldn't recommend you use it. If you have other Mezcos, this will work really well. It'll probably work better with other guns, but definitely not for this Gatling gun, which is a shame. And that goes for all 3 of the fire effects. And finally, here he is. On the right here is the official Mezco original Punisher. On the left here is a KO Punisher there with one of the official Mezco head sculpts on. But I've also taken off the original KO armor. I have painted a skull on there, and I have then put a Kai Labs white harness on there. It's got his knife in there. Got 2 handguns on the side here. All of these pouches are magnetized to the harness itself, which I think makes it look really cool. And it's a great way to display your other head sculpts that you got with the official Punisher. But I really like this Spec Ops KO Punisher. It looks really good. Again, it's not as detailed as the original, and if you can find the original, by all means get that. It's a far higher quality product than this one. But for the price I paid, roughly around, was it 55 to 60 pounds? I'd say they did a blinding job on this KO, and it really does fit into the rest of the Mezco collection almost seamlessly. Obviously there are a few issues that I have with it, namely that the gun effects don't really fit into the Gatling gun. It will easily break, I swear to God, it really would. I'm not sure if there's some sort of modification I can do to the barrels to try and help it. Also, the joints are not as solid and tight as an official version. You know, especially in the ankles, they can be a little loose. It's the same with this version. It's the body, it's a KO body, and it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But I would have practically paid that amount of money just for that head sculpt and the guns alone, because the sheer amount of weaponry he comes with will enhance your entire Mezco collection. If you're interested in picking one up, you can go to eBay and type in 112 Collective Punisher, and this guy should show up. And it seemed like they had a fair few, so go on there, you should be able to locate it. Worst case scenario, you barely use any of it, you just use the head sculpt and the weapons. But I think this is probably, ironically, one of the best KOs I've seen come out of China for Mezco figures. And I really can't wait to see what people are going to do with this when they start taking them and modifying them and changing things around. I could even reach in and get this Kai Labs harness and fit it all onto this guy, take the belt off, and it would look just as good. But anyway, that's the KO 112 Collective Spec Ops Punisher. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, and if you could do me a favor now, if you could get the fuck out of my cave, I'd really appreciate it. Bye bye guys.